Welcome, 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 everyone, to another episode of the Aligned as Fuck, a human design experiment podcast. And I will tell you, I am already buzzing because my guest who is on this show, I will tell you, when you say soul sisters and people that just, man, are meant to be in your orbit, my guest is that person times 50. I cannot explain how magical our energy is, but you're going to get to taste it for yourself. And so before I jump in, let me remind you that this is our space to get raw, real, gritty. It is the ultimate rabbit hole dive, and it is everything leadership alignment, human design, and all of the things that connect us into who we are, how we are, and our radical authenticity and alignment. And so today we're going to take a little bit of a different way into that conversation, but I am excited because my friend Kim Woods is here to join us. So first of all, welcome, Kim. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thanks, Candy. We're gonna have so much fun.
We are going to have fun. And so let me tell you why I love her so much. I mean, I'm going to give you her like background stuff, but I'm telling you, you are going to feel some power today. And she is someone that I would really say is wise on a level that just will blow your freaking mind. And so, as JP Morgan says, millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do. And one of the things I find so fascinating about Kim is the way she approaches astrology. I will tell you, I sort of dabbled in things, but it was only until Kim and I connected that I like just went into the space that she played in. And I have shared her with everyone in my circle and my friends because I love the way that she brings business strategy and astrology together. And she really brings her experience and looks at astrology from a different standpoint. So Kim's strategy combines ancient feminine wisdom. I mean, isn't that already delicious? That just feels so yummy. Astrology and her 25 plus years of C-suite experience. So she's bringing a lot of corporate power behind her as well, which is, like I said, this dynamic of bringing these things together is so juicy. To teach business leaders how to become rich and powerful. Anybody want to be a little bit richer and more powerful? Raise your hand. Making a big impact and leaving a legacy. And you know, we talk a lot about how to lead your living legacy. So this is going to be really important for you to tune in. So get the Scooby-Doo ears ready because we're going to be sharing a lot today. Kim works with visionary entrepreneurs who reached an upper limit in mid six figures and want to break through to seven, eight figures. They're looking for more certainty, better work-life balance, and increased fulfillment that aligns their work with their deeper purpose. Again, I'm guessing all of you are like, I feel like you're speaking exactly to me. Kim's clients come to her dissatisfied, knowing that they made for more, better, deeper, more fulfilling life and work by tapping into their soul. Kim makes sure they're going in the right direction, have access to the right people, are relying on the right resources to create personal, professional, and financial triumph. And I will tell you, she is known as the trusted authority for the new era, which we are going to talk about today. Before we do that, Kim, ooh, that's just so juicy. But I want to talk a little bit about how you got here. I mean, you are a master astrologist and you have been doing this for what, a quarter of a century now, where you have really been like in this space and bringing a very sort of masculine, strategic business mindset with this really divine, juicy, feminine wisdom and energy. And so I'm curious, tell us a little bit about how that showed up for you and how that sort of like moved you into this space to be this authority.
Yeah, I wish it were an easy story and a really straightforward one, right? Like I'm a business strategist, Candy. Like I'd like to know, like, oh, I had this, goal, and then the light shined and all the things, the pathway cleared and all was good. No, that's a false lie if I ever said that, right? Like, no, it didn't happen that way. Of course it didn't. Of course my soul like wouldn't shut up, right? Like I was on the corporate track, I was working Oracle, I was flying around the world, I was the closer for them, had a great team. I mean, everything was just like, oh, got my MBA. I was doing the thing that I thought I wanted to do, right? And so I was satisfied. I'm doing the air quotes now, like, because I thought that that was the way it was supposed to be. But of course, my soul was screaming in the background, going, you're not exactly doing what you want to do. Like, this is great for you for experience. We'll let you play here for a while, but then we're going to give you a left turn. And because I wasn't really looking at signals, my left turn was like, like, of course, a train wreck, right? Like, my left turn was just like, well, we're going to have to just like boil down everything and make you leave you kind of with nothing from a corporate perspective. So my son was born, my oldest son. And so he had developmental issues. And you think about it, you're like, okay, first of all, first time mom, like I didn't know what I was doing. And then, like, but I'm like, oh no, no worries. Like I've got the childcare set up, I'm going back to work, like all the things. Well, he had so many issues that my instinct was said to myself, if you go back, he's going to stay on the spectrum. Because he was on
Mm.
the spectrum, which you can't know that. That's unknowable for the first few years. But I was like, this is my instinct, right? So I was like, okay, well, okay, of course I'm going to just derail their career because of course I'm going to do that. But I didn't realize I was going to have a complete identity loss, like complete and utter identity loss. I was so incredibly tied up with my career. I didn't know who I was. So there I am, new baby, not knowing what I'm doing. He's got so many issues where at doctors and therapists and all the things, nothing's working. And so I started getting, again, my soul's like, hello, hello, Kim, like, could you come over here, right? And so Eastern practices. So I was doing Pilates and I was doing like yoga and stuff. So that was, that's pretty mainstreamish, right? One of my yoga teachers said to me something, she said the word chakra. And that was a light bulb moment for me. I was like, what the hell is that? Like, what is happening right now, right? And so turn the light bulb on. There's a whole Eastern way of doing things. There's all these practices to do. And I went on a rampage of learning for probably 3 to 5 years. In the meantime, getting him back on track. Like we rewired his brain. We did all these great things. So in the middle of all of this, where's my identity? Well,
Mhm.
I still kind of sort of don't know. Started a business with my husband, very corporate-y, but my soul is still yelling at me. So trying to do the holistic things. This is what I say to my clients, you have to wear it. I was
Yep.
wearing nothing. Like I was wearing nothing. I was wearing my business corporate hat, and oh my God, I have a shit show happening at home, right? So like it can
Right.
come together. So after probably 10 years, like this is where I'd like to say it was easy. No, swirling around, had no idea what I was doing. And then epiphanies came, but they were probably so subtle that like they really happened. You're like, wow, that conversation did redirect me, but they were like course corrections until finally my soul was like, hey, numbskull, what if you took these transformative results that you got personally and applied them to business? Oh, I don't know. Maybe that would work.
Yeah. Well, and oh my God, I love so much about that because we've talked about how parallel our stories are. And I've had a
Yeah.
very similar path with human design where I had so much resistance when, the manifester in my mastermind that introduced it to me. I'm like, I don't want another woo-woo thing. Get this away. I had just gotten gutted out on a spiritual retreat where I'm like, what the hell just happened? I talk about an identity existential crisis where I'm like, I think I left him in the trees in Vancouver. I don't even know what the hell's happening right now, and came back and she's like, you need to do your human design. And I'm like, oh my God, get away from me. And yet somehow over 8 years, it kept pulling on me. And what I find really fascinating about this, and I think for people listening right now, this is because I remember you saying something to me, and we've talked about this as well. And I think there's a lot of people that are feeling levels of this right now. And so talking about the fact that on the surface, outside to the world, you look successful by all definitions of what we call successful. You're climbing the corporate ladder, you're doing really well. Everyone's like, wow, she's got her shit together. I always call that the duck, right? Like your legs are going
Mhm.
a mile a minute underwater. You're like, if you only knew what was going on behind the scenes. But everybody from the outside looking in are like, wow, Kim's got her shit together. She is just like powerful. She's on the course. Yet you're going through this whole identity shift, this whole sort of existential crisis that's like, who the fuck am I in this? Like, my soul, I love the way you say that. My soul is screaming at me because I feel like, especially since the pandemic hit, there are a
Yeah.
lot of people where their soul is screaming at them. I know for me, I've gone through two identity shifts in the last 5 years because my soul's like, girl, no. And you even asked me a question that had me reeling for weeks when you're like, so Candy, and I have to say, every time I see you, I can say yes, even more. But you asked me, am I ready to come out of the spiritual closet? And I had a bit of a freak out moment because, especially when we were talking about visibility on platforms like LinkedIn, where it's always been my leadership voice and my business voice and my strategy voice. And so I'm wondering, because I know you're doing this work right now with people, and when we talk about
Mhm.
you being that trusted advisor for the new era, how are you seeing this play out for people? Because I think for some people right now, they're giving themselves a level of permission to go, oh my God, my soul is screaming. Maybe it's not going to happen overnight. Maybe I'm kind of in that, I like to call it the chrysalis goo right now,
Yeah.
where it's like, fuck, this is hard right now. And I mean, we're in the like epitome of the energy that's pushing on who needs to come out of the spiritual closet right now. How do people navigate that? How did you navigate that? And how are you effectively seeing the pathways for people to be navigating that? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that, whether they recognize it or not, that's kind of the space that they're really spiraling out of control right now.
Oh, 100%. And talk about underneath the surface, right? So in the last 14 years, we've been given permission to kick the can down the road. Neptune's been in Pisces. All you need to know, it's like the dude in a van in the parking lot of the high school where he's smoking the doobies and he's having so much fun. And he does it. He's like, dude, this is so great. I love life. Give me a pizza. This is so fabulous. Like, all the things. But as of the time everybody's hearing this, like we're on the heels of it, right? At the time everybody's hearing this for the first time and then forevermore, the dude opens up the van doors and he steps out in the parking lot of the high school, and 14 years has gone by, and everybody's 30 or 32, and he's still 18 and he hasn't graduated.
Mm,
So we have a little bit of time in this year of 2025, um, of being able to hide a little bit. We've got like remnants, right? Because just the way the planets kind of move this year. But as of the top of 2026, there's no hiding ever. Here's the deal though. The dude in the van, once he steps out and he sees that he's 30 or 32 and everybody is in high school and he doesn't know anybody, even if he goes and hides back in the van, he can't unsee that. He
mm,
can't unknow that. So the hiding ability is almost zero. There's good news, bad news with that. The good news is that their soul doesn't have to keep screaming underneath the surface, right? So that is good news because the soul is going to become, the soul is so patient. Like I say the soul is screaming, but the soul, like this is lifetimes. Like this is like 80 million years, and the soul's like, hey Kim, hey Candy, what do you think? Like, what do you think? So patient, right? So when I say screaming, it's not like your mind going, right? I mean, your soul is like, hey girl, hey girlfriend. Hey, what do you think? Right. But if you're sensitive to it, it feels like screaming because you just know it's not right. Like you don't fit anymore. Like my clients say to me, I put on like the Technicolor dream coat for them. I show them what it is and I help them fit into it. Like that's exactly what I do. So because I'm literally channeling the voice of your soul, I am telling you exactly what your soul wants you to know at any given moment. That's just what I do, right? So with that, we have this sight all of a sudden, and everybody says they want clarity, and I look at them and go, do you really, are you ready to say yes? Because I'm answering the second part of the question. How can you navigate through this by saying yes even when you don't know what you're saying yes to? Like I always tell my clients, you don't need to see the whole staircase. I can, like when you're working with me, I can see the whole staircase, but sometimes you're not meant to see the whole staircase. Like sometimes you're only meant to see that stair, or sometimes you're only meant to see that there is a staircase.
mhm.
And then you're like, oh, damn. Okay. Like for me, so my astrologer. So here's the thing. I was brought up Catholic, cuckoo pants, but my mother believed in astrology. How I won the lottery on that, right? So I always had that window open. Maybe that's why I could step and say yes to astrology. My husband, well, I met him in 97 and we were going for a walk. He lived in Newport at the time, walking by the mansions. And apparently he had to remind me of this like about 10 years ago. You said to me that you wanted to become an astrologer. Apparently, you're doing the dating thing and you're like, ah. And so he was Mr. Navy, he was Mr. Button Down, MBA, whatever. And I'm Miss Corporate, MBA too, like da da. And apparently, my soul again wouldn't stop talking. And out of my mouth came, I would love to become an astrologer. What the hell is that? I pulled that out of my ass. It was like I had no idea what I was talking about. Didn't even remember it, had like
Yep.
amnesia for 20 years, right? And so when I was going through the holy crap, how am I going to combine Eastern practices with Western methods? I quote unquote tried to bring it into corporate. I wasn't wearing it. That's why it didn't go in. Like I just wasn't wearing it. Okay. So now, but I'm going to go full force, right? So much so I closed my other successful business. Like I closed a very successful business because none of my clients would take a left turn with me. And I thought, oh, it's too easy. It's just too easy not to do this.
Yeah.
It's too easy not to. I'm making too much money. It's too easy. I have a referral-based business at this point. Everybody flocking to me. Had a team of 10. Like, too
Yeah.
easy. No, had to shut that shit down.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like,
for sure, right?
so so I did. Boom. And then now I hear no clients, no model, no company name, no company. Didn't know the online space at all. Like I didn't know how to do this. I had a LinkedIn profile only because I was supposed to. I had a website because it was, yeah, you had a page. So I had to learn everything. Neophyte over here, like learn everything and come out of the spiritual closet. That was no joke. That took me years to do.
That is no joke, right? Because, and I think, and so again, so much in what you just said, similar. Like I had other people call me out going, I don't know why you keep fighting human design when it has become your language. Like Candy, you, because to your point, I don't always see, I can see it to myself, but we have our filters in our way, and I need somebody else to like, and we're going to do a little play there where you're going to share some of your brilliance. But like, I will have somebody's chart look almost exactly like mine, and I can channel for them and see all the things in the staircase. But when I look at it for myself, I'm like, fuck, and I just get stuck, right?
Like la 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 la
Or
la.
I don't want to see it, right? And like and hear what it has to say. But I think about that process. Again, I'm gonna call it the chrysalis goo. For those of you that are like, oh, I want to be the caterpillar that becomes the butterfly. I hope you realize the middle is gunk. It's gooey, it's messy, it's not, it's painful. Chrysalis is a painful process, right? And so coming out of the spiritual closet, no freaking joke. And
No joke.
similarly, I mean, everything I built my business on was corporate training, leadership development. And how can I take that, but let all that go? Like a lot of that
Yeah.
just burned to the ground. I am doing
Hmm.
much corporate work, and it's only with the right people that want me to come in the new language that I'm expressing, because I had to let this go. I had to let go of the security blanket of, if you're here, you coming out of the spiritual closet's not going to happen. Like you've got
Yeah.
to be able to have, and somewhere there's a level of trust and faith and dropping in that says, I don't know how this is going to unfold. But to your point, when you get sensitive, I do think your soul starts screaming a little bit louder. Mine has
Oh,
literally kicked me in my ass the last couple of years, where it's like, I feel like I have conversations sometimes where I'm like, I don't want to, and I know we're in this year that's going to push us. I don't
oh,
do that. And the universe
oh.
looks at me, and my human design sometimes looks at me and goes, you're cute. Suck it up, buttercup, because it's go time. Like, I don't care that you're uncomfortable. I'm throwing
Totally.
you off the diving board because somewhere in your memory, you know how to swim. You might suck some water for a minute, but you're going off the board because it's time. And I
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
no matter how much I resist right now, the universe just looks at me and is like, you're cute, but get the life jacket on or the buckle up or do whatever it is, because I'm about to throw your ass in. So
Yeah.
you can kick and scream and like take in a bunch of water you don't need to be taking in, or you can close your eyes, trust you're gonna land and not belly flop, and start moving forward, right? And
Absolutely.
so many people right now are in this weird energy, this wobble, I'll call it, where they're hanging on for dear life to the life raft that feels comfortable, that feels like the old, but I have an MBA and I do this, and this is what
Yeah.
business looks like, and this is success. And they're suffocating. Their grip is so tight because they're like, I can't let that go. Yet their soul's like, and I need you to completely move into a new space. Like,
Well, it's because the mind can't handle growth, right? Like so we love our mind, right? We feed our mind 900 million years of, like of content every minute, right? Like so our mind is really feeling like it's in the driver's seat. The poor mind is exhausted. It knows it's in the wrong seat, doesn't want to have the wheel anymore. The mind is literally like last gasp of holy crap, can I finally let this go, right? But everything's so familiar. Here's what I know. I live in the Boston area. When I would walk into any sort of room as what the hell was my title? Like business strategist, leadership, I don't know what the hell it was, like something like that, like business strategy, right? I would walk in, when I walk into a room, I'm just observing and I'm just listening and I'm just having beautiful, lovely conversations. That's just my jam. And so I don't sell. I just have conversations. I still do that. And so what I would say, like, hey, business strategist, and if I had permission from a client, I could mention a client or whatever, but a pretty like high caliber, a book of business, right? C-suite experience. That means I was in the boardroom helping people design and make decisions for 25 years. Like this wasn't me like talking to people, like maybe having a conversation. I'm in the boardroom. So maybe I just carry that energy. So people would flock to me, I'd give them advice, I'd walk out with 5 clients. Great. Went to that same room, Boston area, enter that same room. I'm an astrologer. Whoosh. Like literally, people run for the hills. Like I'm standing alone. Get the side eye, maybe get the side eye. No, nobody was brave enough to come in, right? So I remember one speaking engagement that I did. It was a partner that I had. It was this business incubator group, and I would draw like 100 people in the room every single time. So 100 people are there. Candy. I made myself. I had 4 or 5 near and dear people with me. They sat right in the front row for me, and I made myself say 2 words.
Hmm.
Almost crapped my pants. Made myself say the word tarot and made myself say the word astrology. Now, did I do it well? Probably not. I probably,
Uh-huh.
but I did it. Like, I did it. I was probably holding onto the desk in front of me, staring at a friend, like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I can still remember. And I remember looking up, I'm like, this guy did not fall. This guy did not fall. It's a big deal. So of course people are hanging on to their stuff. They worked really hard to earn that, right? It's so super familiar. Here's the deal though. 2025, we have to say goodbye to that stuff. It's just not going to work. The new era's here. It's been here for a handful of years. We're heading into it. Astrology has become mainstream. Human design's going to become the next Myers-Briggs. Like let's just go. So that's why I speak to visionaries. I speak to rebels. I speak to people that are ready. They know the discontent or the upper limit or the vacuum for the last 2 years of business, if you don't fully own yourself, has not been fun for a lot of people. So even though you might want to give your soul a timeout, all my clients say that to me. Can we give my soul a timeout? I'm like, for a hot minute, maybe. But your soul's really driving the train right now, really driving that car.
Well, and it's so funny because I have a similar. I remember speaking at a conference for IEEE. I mean, we're talking electrical engineers and
Yeah.
electricians, right? And it was women. And I remember I almost drove off the road because I had a download that said you need to teach them how to feed the soul of their business. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. I can do that with entrepreneurs. And it's like, no. And I literally was like, you want me to do what with what? And I got called at that presentation and I buried it in. And I was like, oh my God, you're going to make me say this out loud. You're going to make me say, feed the soul of the business. Like, this is not language that they want to hear. And what was crazy is I let it go. And I same thing. It was that white knuckle. And then I get a call from one of the regional directors and she's like, we want to bring you in to talk. And I was like, oh, do you want me to do this talk, this talk? She got really nervous and really quiet. And she's like, actually, we were wondering if you would expand on feeding the soul of our business.
Love
And it
that.
was like such a breakthrough moment because I think about where that fear comes from. And so I actually want to talk about that for a minute because I know you
Yeah.
and I both work with the rebels and the tree shakers and the cosmic catalysts and there's some people teetering on that right now.
Mhm.
Why, I guess I've got two questions on that. Why do you feel we're so afraid of the Eastern philosophy and
Okay.
the things that have been living around for thousands of millions of years? Like it's so grounded, but why is there such a fear? And for those that are teetering, that may be struggling to allow themselves the language,
Hmm.
how do they make that shift where they give themselves permission to say the thing and realize the sky's not going to fall and realize that that's part of where they need to catalyze their next opportunity is to actually say the thing.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So it's so interesting because in my business, it was called Sea Change. My husband and I opened it in 2003, 2004. Our tagline was reviving the heart and soul in business. People just glossed over it. I had CEOs coloring in boardrooms before there were adult coloring books. Like so, but I could get through it with fun. So I'm going to start answering. That's going to be part of part two. Okay, the question. So the first part of the question was why are people so hesitant, reluctant, resistant to do things in Eastern practice? Think about the last 50 years. Everything has become so evidentiary based. We
Mm.
need evidence. Show me. I want to see it. Prove it. What's the statistic? What are the results? Everything's been bottom line, ROI, KPI, metric building results. Eastern practice and the soul, there's no result that's measurable. As a matter of fact, it's so immeasurable. That's where all the possibilities reside, right? So you and I are intuitive visionaries. We'll talk about my quiz in a minute because this is one of the ways that people can make that shift. And so we're always like, yes, of this big potential. Like when I was in leadership, my whole thing since the beginning of time was I could see the potential in a person, a situation, a business, whatever. People at Oracle would say to me, you're downloading our business model. Like I was like, sure. Like, but I was thinking like, oh my God, I'm such a great coder. Like I know the systems. Yay. Like, yeah. Okay, sure. It took me a hot minute on retrospect, like reflection to figure that one out, right? So the reality is you have it's a faith-based in the truest sense of the form. There's no evidence for a while. You will be like kind of shocked to the system either softly or shockingly, whichever. It's whatever is going to present itself. But at some point you have to say yes to the unknown.
Mm.
You're not going to know. And that's really not easy to do. I didn't say hard. That's not easy to do. Okay. The other thing is there's a resonance. So the good news is, and I'm bridging both questions.
Mhm.
The good news is that the more of us who say yes makes it infinitely easier for other people. Like in 1950, when Reiki came over from Japan, it used to take people like 12 years to learn Reiki. Now you can do it in a weekend. The same thing's happening. Akashic Records, I studied with Linda Howe, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And she had said at the time, what did she say? I think she said by 2030 or 2040, people aren't going to have to study Akashic Records anymore. They're going to be able to just boom, open them. That's so beautiful. So things are becoming more accessible. The more people that say yes, the easier it makes it for other people.
Mm.
So that's beautiful, right? And yet it still requires you to say yes. What can help? So one thing that's not helpful, you take people that are whether they're corporate or entrepreneurial or whatever, but very high achieving, very much like focused on goals, and you say to them, go sit on a cushion and get in lotus position and meditate. Shut up. Like I'm gonna say, shut the fuck up. Like you're a moron. You stupid bitch. Yeah, I get to
Right.
swear. I'm on your podcast, baby, right? No. This is one of the reasons why I did develop my signature quiz. I developed the know like trust methodology. I did all of that because it's the remedy for inactivity. For someone again who is in the state of I have no idea what's going on, I'm a little lost. Holy crap. I've been so successful, but it's not working anymore. Like, what the bleep? And I've got a whole family life, and I've got a love life, and I've got a personal life, and I've got a business life, and I've got people. What? Sure, I can go step off the world every day for an hour and a half and go meditate by my tree. That's ridiculous. So what I do is come up with number one, it's unique to you. It's unique to how your energy works. It's unique to how you make decisions. And that's where you had said before, like, I am going to give you a very practical, applicable, and more action-oriented way to come to that.
Yeah. And I love that you've designed that. And I want to talk about some of the tools that you've created because they are absolutely revolutionary. Because even in the human design when I work with people in human design and looking at their energetic blueprint, it's one of the things, especially for those that are wired like me, who are Manny Gen with a shit ton of power in their chart. And the idea of me sitting still in meditation sometimes is absolutely one of the most challenging, not because my mind's involved, but because I actually need my body to be in motion. And so one of
Yeah.
the things I've given as a practical strategy for people is teaching yourself to create stillness in motion. How
Yeah.
can I am much better at walking meditations
Yes.
and allowing myself a space where there's movement. Yoga is better, but even that's more power yoga where I have an opportunity to channel some of that restless energy because just being able to still is not something. There's time and a place to practice some of that, but to just come out of the gate with somebody who is moving at that speed and to do those things and then tell them, oh, you just need to sit on a cushion in meditation, to your point, yeah, that's utter and complete bullshit, and you're
Nonsense.
not helping that person. And I feel
Exactly.
like some of the people out there that they're like, it's a one size fits all. Everybody needs to meditate for 20 minutes and you need to do this. And I'm like, that's not realistic. That's
Hmm.
not practical. And to your point, when you've got commitments and you've got priorities, and regardless of the esoteric and the spiritual and the, oh, I would love to be in that space, we still live in the 3D world and there are still things we have to do on some level before that full bridge has been done. And so that balance of being able to provide practical things that are, can you create mindfulness in 30 seconds or in 2 minutes in between? Can you close your eyes for a minute and bring your breathing into your diaphragm or breathe up from the bottom of your feet rather than that hyperventilating? Can you do that to start versus I got to sit on a pillow for 2 hours a day and like close my eyes and go, oh, like,
Exactly. I agree with you. And here's two realities. One is the soul is so incredibly patient that it does need silence to get your attention, unless it gives you a lightning bolt of
for
attention,
sure.
right? Right. So okay, that is the truth. The other thing is from a practical perspective. So here's the deal. Okay. So back in things I download all the time. That's just what happens, right? So here's two things I want to say. One is when people say you have to give up your mind, that's only a temporary thing. Because the reality is your brilliance or your genius or your originality comes in when you combine the mind with your intuition.
Yep.
Right. So that's unlocked. So for me, like I have to give up my mind. I have to give up my mind. I kind of adore my mind. I'm really smart. Like I really kind of dig it. Right. I like talking. I can't shut up. Right. So like, how am I going to give up my mind? So that was big struggle. It took me like 10 years to figure out how to meditate. I never want anybody to go through that scenario. Right. Because it was like, sit on the cushion, do the 20 minutes. Meanwhile, I'm like practically like little, like having little shots
Right.
come in. So I
Right.
came up with an activity pack. So I have a meditation activity pack that I tell people about. So that's one thing that I
I
do.
love it.
And the other thing that I do, so and for real, so it was back in top of 2022, and I only know because I had to tell my Rich and Powerful Leaders Academy. I've been asking them to do this morning incantation that I have that you can do while you're brushing your teeth, by the way, and it's only 2 minutes max. And I've been asking them to do it, who's ever been in my world for the last 3 years. No one was doing it. No one. Very rarely. I had a few clients that did it. Major shifts in their life, by the way. So I literally joked with them just yesterday. I saw them yesterday. I'm like, I had to pay you people to do this, right? Like I gave prizes away. I gave it to the whole group. I gave them one cute little prize. And then I did top three for like them doing it and epiphanies. Okay. One woman got 6 clients in 3 weeks.
Mm.
Another woman, and there happen to be a woman in the group right now. Another woman who was at a stopping point, like she was like literally like stuck
Mhm.
completely. She's gotten 3 brand new, like literally she's in Australia. The government has gotten in touch with her. This huge group that is in her industry has gotten in touch with her. Just someone else, a big investor, just got in touch with her. Again, last 3 weeks. And then there was another story about one woman who is making a shift from a value perspective, and she wouldn't own her value. She was underpricing everything. And we've all been like, come on, boom sauce. And now all of a sudden, she makes wands. They're beautiful. And now all of a sudden she's like, actually, she just sent me a reel this morning. And I'm like, yes, my friend,
Love that.
yes. So that's the thing. You don't need to have, yes, you can go off on a sojourn. You can go do these beautiful retreats. Absolutely. If that's what you're drawn to do, I adore that. Your soul adores that. It's lovely. For those people who can't quite figure out how to get that into their time block, or it doesn't really make sense for them, you can actually get big results when you just carve a little bit of time out. I'm always like in the shower, emptying the dishwasher, brushing your teeth,
Yeah.
putting a load of laundry in. This is what you can do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think for people that gives us so much permission, right? Because I do the same thing when people are like, oh my, I'm like, stop trying to figure out your energy and stop trying to let it play in the background. Put in a little laundry and be like, oh, that was really interesting. I wonder where, and let your curiosity lead you. That is a form of meditation when you quiet
Hmm.
down and let yourself ponder and wonder. And to your point, that's the beauty of your mind, whether you've got definition up there or you're open, wide open like I am, where it's infinite possibilities. That's the beauty of the mind is I'm like, ooh, what if I were to play? Which is why I love the endless rabbit hole diving that I do even on these shows, right? It's the fact that it's like, ooh, but because I don't like so much the question, what if? Because I think sometimes that question limits people and puts them in the, oh my God, the sky is falling. What if this? What? I'm like, use the prompt. Because so think about the power of your mind. Use the prompt, imagine if. And I'll tell
Mm.
myself, oh, imagine if I could play in that space. Imagine if what Kim just said, if I took, ooh, imagine if that, blah, blah. And when you do that, it's that beautiful way to let your mind be in the process of that way to create curiosity and wonder and awe that oftentimes can crack us open to things we need to get quiet on. It gets a lot easier to get quiet when all of a sudden your imagination's like lit up and playing because then you don't even realize time stands still. And that's when you get in the stillness and you're just in the play space. And all of a sudden you're like, what just happened? I feel like I just had like 14 downloads and epiphanies and because you got still. You got
Yeah.
still without forcing yourself to get still, but you created a way to crack that open. And so that actually leads me to a kind of segue into you've developed this incredible revolutionary tool. It's a quiz people can take that really and you had already kind of alluded to this. You and I are both intuitive visionaries. And I will tell you, I took Kim's quiz 3 times. Trying to like really, because I'm always about any quote assessment or test, and I do this with human design as well, but it is what it is. And
Right.
no matter which way I thought I was answering it, no matter what I did, 3 times it came back exactly the same. And I'm like, well, damn it. I guess
Fofo.
in
Yeah.
the system. Because I tried to break this. I tried to break it. And every time again, it was like the universe is like, you're so cute. Why do you fight? When I try to show you the path, I feel like all the time it's like, here's the silver platter with the keys to the kingdom. And
Right.
I, whatever you want to call it, God, universe, source, Penelope, Tao, whatever, is like, my dear sweet child, why do you insist on making it so fucking hard? I'm trying to hand it to you on a silver platter, but you look at me and go, no, that was too easy.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. So yes, so what ended up happening? I was on another podcast. It was spring of 2020, and I was with a businesswoman. We both happened to have been working at Oracle. We discovered each other again in the online space. It was kind of like one of those things. Had me on her podcast, one of her first episodes, and I was talking to her about she wanted to talk about marketing, and I was like, great, I'll talk about marketing. And so we were talking about the no like trust factor. We were talking, customers need to know you, like you, trust you, and her whole thing was about relaunching and for love, right? So I was like, okay. And then I said, right, like this is where you have these moments, right? I said, yeah, but it's really much more important for you to know, like, and trust yourself. She kind of sort of entertained that. We talked about it for a hot minute. We get off the podcast, we go away. She's like, oh my God, Kim, I'm so sorry. She gets back to me like a month later. She's like, our podcast, something happened to the recording. Something legit happened in the recording. She's like, we need to do this again. It's never happened, whatever. She's now had like 500 episodes. It's never happened before. But at that moment, I realized, I said, oh my goodness, what does that mean? So this is what happens when your intuition starts talking to you. It doesn't talk in complete sentences. It doesn't make sense. When people come to me and they say, "Oh yes, my intuition said for me to go, and then start this career and then work with these people and then do this thing and these are my next steps." I'm like, "I love you, babe, but that's not your intuition at all." Your intuition is confusing, it's whispery, it's nudgy. It usually, like for me, it usually knocks me off the couch. Like
It's
I'm
illogical. It makes no sense. Yeah, for
like,
sure.
what is happening? Like, what is this, right? And it's only when you start having that conversation continually do you then speak that same language and then you get it and you're like, oh, okay. And for me, as an intuitive visionary in the work I do, I get 100 downloads every minute. Half of them aren't mine. I just land them for the earth, and they're someone's. Some of them they're for someone I know, and some of them are for me, maybe sort of almost, right? So Anyway, so that's what can happen, just giving people a glimmer of the future. But when you're in the space, so now I took this and so this is where I love what you said, Candy. Imagine if. I always say I wonder. It's the same thing, just different words. I wonder, what does that mean? And so I danced with it all summer. And then in the fall, I said, oh, it's going to be like a quiz. The quizzes were a big thing in 2020. So this wasn't original. But I was like, oh no, this is for real. I remember it was like September. It started to give me a little bit of an inkling of maybe it was going to be some sort of, like, I called it type then. Like I was like, it's probably had 5 names since then. I was like, Christmas. COVID, had COVID. My mother-in-law had just died. It's Christmas. I wrote the 12 question quiz with the results, with 50 pages of results, made the quiz myself in the technology, set up the emails, did all the things in a week.
Yep. Yep.
This is when you know. This is when you know it's completely downloaded. I was just the conduit. That those results have held true. We've changed 22,000 people have taken the quiz. We've changed the first question, the answer on the first question to include binging on Netflix. Only thing we've changed in the quiz and the whole time.
Yeah.
Like we went through testing. I tested it with like 300 people. I will tell you about 5% of the people will answer the questions all over the place. So what we've done is we've captured their first answer. Their first answer is always right, by the way.
Mhm.
What that indicates to me is either they're just trying to muck around and whatever, or they just don't believe in
Yeah.
themselves. So we put them in a different category and help them, kind of through a nurture sequence, just help them and we remind them what their first answer was. The importance part of this quiz, it's about choice. So we have our stars and we have our human design. And yes, there's evolution in there. We can grow into things and things shift and change, but that's really our soul level programming. This quiz is how you make choice.
Mhm.
Because when you take that, that fate that is either through human designs or the stars or palmistry or I Ching or, however you're coming to that, and you add free choice, free will and choice, that's where you get to destiny.
Mhm.
I'm all about mission and destiny, right? So for me, the fact that you're an intuitive visionary and a Manny Jen, oh, hello, Manny Jen, fellow
Right,
Manny
which
Jen.
by the way, I knew, and we were in the Dames, and Kim did a little. I wonder if you can decide after she talked about the types in her quiz who they were. And because I had done those people's human design, every single one of them, I was like, that's the person, that's the person,
Oh, I love that.
because I could see the connection
Oh, there's
based
a huge
on
connection.
how they use their energy and how they make decisions. I very quickly knew who was which of the types in your, and I
Absolutely.
didn't get a single one wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So fascinating, right? But again, it's your choice. It's like your inclination. How do you make decisions? How do you enter a room? How do you connect with people? How does your mind, because it's all about knowing, liking, and trusting yourself. Mind running to confusion. How do we get it clear? Heart kind of closed and twisted and doesn't really want to open. We get that to open. Your will is either inactive, like "Nah," or it's overactive, we get that to be rightly active. So this, I mean, honestly, I have 53 pages of a table that I call the signature Bible, that every single lens that's come through, and it's only in like 3, 4 words. Like there's so much content: money, marketing, sales, connection, networking, visibility, success, business model, leadership style. I mean, just go on and on. Energy, how to develop your intuition. I mean, holiday tips. Like I've been asked to do so many different things. Done. Do it right through that lens of the quiz. And so many people come to me and say, I cannot believe that I've been grappling with at Thanksgiving, been grappling with my relatives for 30 years. But because I'm a loving alchemist, you nailed exactly what I should do. It's the first time my husband and I enjoyed Thanksgiving in
Isn't
30 years.
that so crazy? Because that's one of the things I would say, and we're going to play in this a little bit because you even offered this before we got on the call today, and to talk about this. So we're gonna shift in, and you're gonna get to see Kim's magic in real life, and I'm excited because I have no idea what's gonna come through. I'm a little scared. I'm just saying. But that's one of the reasons why even looking at an energetic blueprint like human design, because I do this from a different capacity, is it's in that how we have free will. That's part of our human experience, right? We get to decide who am I, what am I doing, what's my purpose, what's my mission, all of the things, but the how. when we understand that there is a pathway for how we do things in optimal alignment, with ease, with grace, that oftentimes it's a littlest of tweaks,
Mhm.
that bit of understanding, because you already know it. This is the most beautiful thing about it, because anything that I've learned when I found out I'm an intuitive visionary, and every time I listen, and by the way, please listen to Kim's podcast. Man, you want to talk about understanding, especially right now with the energy that's going on and everything else. You have got to listen to Kim's podcast. I'm going to make sure it's in the show notes, but I mean, you need to be on and subscribe and listen. Like, I don't miss episodes. I'm out there, but she always gives that little tweak based on what your type is from her assessment, that quiz. And then I'm like, oh, it's like it's already what I already know it. I
Exactly.
just need to remember and be reminded of the fact that I almost want to say it's like a switch that I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot I can just flip that switch. Oh yeah, that's my power right there. That's my magic sauce. That's my, oh, I know I'm getting all lit up, but I need to wait for a minute. And I will tell you, there's been some of the conversation on her podcast where she's like, intuitive visionaries, just sit tight for a minute.
Oh, 2024. 2024. I want to strangle 2024, right? So as a fellow intuitive visionary, like one of my other friends who's also an intuitive visionary, she was like, "Oh my God, Kim, if you tell me one more time to not take action," I'm like, "I know." She's like, "And now I can feel the hitch in your voice when you say it because you have to do it too." I'm
Right.
like, "Yes." So for us, thank God, yay, we're gonna be able to start like really moving,
Right.
grooming, yay! But it
So
was a hot
a
minute
little
that
bit.
we
Let's
couldn't.
go down that path, because I want to play and I want to show people the brilliance of what you do in this space. So let's play a little bit, and I'm going to hand myself over to however you want to guide through what you do.
Cool. Okay, cool. So Candy said yes for me to taking a star peek. So what I end up doing, there's stars in the sky, and that's what we're talking about right now, where there's this big wake up call. You're getting out of the van, you're watching yourself, 15 years
Well,
later.
she didn't say it on here, but I love that she uses the analogy for those of you that are as old as we are. The Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's what
Uh-huh.
we're talking about right now. So I'm just saying.
100%, 100%. So here we have this moment where cute, like the last 6 months have been so maddeningly pulling back, right? So I said to everybody over the last 2 weeks that have been my world, we're going to be looking back at this with fondness and a little bit of like, oh my goodness, can we have that once we get to July? But for right now, it has been you've been either stuck or scattered or squished or smothered or just it's been just a pain in the butt, right? So here we are in Q2. Q2 is all about change. Why is Q2 all about change? First of all, you came out of the van, but you still don't really might want to be out of the van. You're looking at things. So things are revelatory. So there are some things going to reveal themselves that you're like, oh, that's so cool. Like I got my title to my book finally. We've been wrangling with that for 2 months, right? So let me just see. It's the first time I'm going to say it. Can I say it? And let me just see if the
Please,
words come out of
please,
my mouth.
please, please. Yes,
Okay.
accurate.
So it's new era millionaire, uncharted success for the visionary rebel.
That.
First time I put it together, right? So I had to think and all the things, right? So that reveals. So I'm gonna then start owning it. It's gonna come out of my mouth. I'm gonna start thinking about what's also coming in because all these things are coming in on the heel of it. That's Q2. When I look at Candy stars, so Candy, you do know from a life mission perspective, this is where this culmination is happening, right? So we're moving from that beautiful, esoteric, lovingly downloaded, intuitive, creative, unifying space, even though it doesn't feel unifying, because it's also been what's real, what's not real, right? So there's been that separation, that extreme, even within, not necessarily only in the world. And depending upon where this is happening for you, is going to be the area that is going to have the most revelation for you. So when you and I met a handful of, we've met before, but when we talked a handful of months ago, and I said to you, come out, come out, come out, I didn't actually know your stars, but I am intuitive enough to have known your stars, right? So when I said to you, are you going to come out of the closet? Hopefully that was a gift for you to be able to prepare for this because you are coming out. So whether you are ready for it or not, come out wherever you are. So in Candy's stars, it is hitting her in her house of life mission. So it's up at noon. It's like very evident in her chart. It happens to be the same, signature for me too. If it is hitting you, maybe in relationship, maybe it's hitting you in money, maybe it's hitting you in your, ability to create and have fun. Just depends on what it hits for you. So that is a big opening. The other thing is, it's really interesting because Uranus is then going to follow. He's the July. So we've got five major things happening. We
Mhm.
actually had like seven major things happening in a 9 month period, unprecedented.
Yep.
No one on Earth has ever felt Pluto and Aquarius, for example. The future is here, new era, very feminine, very grassroots, very organic. We don't see it yet. It's not here yet. Pluto has to dissolve and destroy everything first. Then we've got Neptune, dude, dude, right? Like now being like, holy crap, I'm awake. Zing, right? Like it's like a shot of
Right?
caffeine, like, wow, right? Big wake up call. But he still can be, he's Neptune, so he's still that chill dude. So he can still kind of fake it a little bit, right? So you get April and May to but then Saturn, the hall monitor. So it would be Mr. Hand in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, right? He's going to come in May and he's going to be like, You want to go back in that van? There's not no pizza for you, my friend. You don't get pizza and you don't get to go back into the van until you grow up
Yep.
and you put up and you show up.
Yep.
And so May 24th, my friends, that's what's coming for the next 3 years. Now, the last time that these two big planets met, we had Neptune and we had Saturn. They meet every, like, I can't remember, it's like every 38 years. Don't do Someone else do math in my head because I can't do it. But they did it in 1993 and they happened to be in the sign of Capricorn. That
Mhm.
was very much about leadership. For you it would have been about relationship because that's in your seventh house. So very much about leadership, very much about how it is that you attain your goals. So that's where those trappings of corporate were just so intoxicating for people. And we had this reign of like corporate wealth, corporate growth. I hate to say corporate greed, corporate power. We've had this since the early 90s. And of course, we've had it for other reasons before that. But now it's in Aries.
Mhm.
Aries is for yourself. How are you individual? How are you awakening? How are you the divine spark? How are you remembering and recalling, right? Because we've got this dance that's happening. Those two planets go back into Pisces in Q4 and come back again to meet at 0 degrees on February 20th, 2026. So here's the deal. The planets do a star dance all the time. They don't often meet at 0 degrees. And the last five big things have been at 0 degrees. It's a big deal. It's an initiation. It's so and literally activation, initiation, however you want to say that. So for you, Candy, it's really interesting because right now and I can speak to this too. We've had Jupiter in Gemini for everybody. For us, it's been in our 12th house. Downloads, spiritual awakening, also giving things up because the 12th house is there's a sense of loss there. So very much releasing. Well, so I'm looking at your chart, individually, and I want to say like the second week of June, Jupiter's going to be in your first house. Now,
Mhm.
this is karmic for you because you've got your soul karma there. You also have your sun there in Cancer, right? So there's going to be major, probably more like April of 2026. It's going to be like, oh, like all good things, right? Before that, you've got to go through a wrangle. You've got to go through a wrangle with Saturn right there at your ascendant, and you've got to go through a wrangle with your karma. So for you, it's about you coming into your genius and
Mhm.
you letting go of I mean, for other people with cancer, I might say the softer, but for you, I'm not going to say that because that's not on brand for you. I would say the devaluing of yourself. You've got to
Mhm.
let that go. And you want to come into the maturity of Capricorn, right? Because that's where your soul destiny is. And it's in the seventh house. So there is that soulmate connection
Mhm.
that wants to come in, that commitment, that staying power. It's in relation to the universe, it's in relation to yourself, and it's a relationship to those soul level people that you
Mhm.
really want to sip from all the time.
Yeah.
There's also a piece here about clan. You've got Pluto in the fourth house.
Mhm. Mhm.
Happen to have it in Libra. So are you doing anything with groups or communities? Are you forming one, my friend?
Yes, actually, right now, I've even got the Leadership Design Lab, which is more of a beta
Okay.
incubator to bring soul leaders to the table to experiment with what the leadership paradigm is going to look like in the new era. This is
Yeah.
we don't know, but we need because, and I call it my Care Bear stare, right? I call
Yeah.
it bringing the Care Bears together. Yes, there is I have been really feeling called that, and I almost feel like the energy of it's an underground under the noise. It's not what
Yep.
typically has been my energy of let's go in and let's be the megahorn and let's like bust through the noise. It's been no, it's a whisper. Let's go underneath. And I need those leaders that are feeling that same whisper or call to realize
Yeah.
we're not here to do it alone and we need to come and gather and start to play and experiment because to your point, we've never been here. So
Yeah.
what leadership is going to look like and the paradigm around leadership is not something that has actually been created yet. We need to be in a space to like play and test and get messy and like know that we're going to get it wrong a few times before we get it right. And so right now, even with there being a don't take a lot of action, there's
Yep.
been a very clear, and I have really been like, no, I'm supposed to wait till April. And it's been like, no, you need to bring people in to get ready. So,
Yep.
so like right now I'm calling them in, but April's when we actually kick off this 8 week like group incubator that's happening to be in that it's really more of a conversation and it's more of a
Yeah.
catalyzing activation than a program or anything like that. It's the but yes, that is really showing up for me that it's how do I invite that energy in.
Yeah, you do. I mean, again, from a soul destiny perspective, you do really well. Think of a think tank and a mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
This is like shoulder to shoulder, peer to peer.
Yep,
You do
100%.
really well when you can bounce things off of other people and you act like an echo chamber, right? And then they can bounce things off of other people. That is a secret spice that you have that a
Yeah,
lot of people don't. I'll be honest with you, I don't have that.
yeah,
Mine is go get the download, figure this crap out,
yeah.
test it,
Yeah,
you know,
mine is
bring
guiding
it
and
into practical.
facilitating the opening. And then, yes, because what happens, and this is the vision, this is what's been downloading for me in the vision, is when those right people come into this, and it's not 300 people,
No.
six, it's like
Yeah,
12,
exactly.
right?
I was gonna say
It's
it's
a
like
very
eight.
contained incubate. But what happens, and I've seen this is where my magic comes in, someone will say something and then someone in the group's like whoa, time out. I know you said this is the direction, but you just said this and you cracked open, and I was just talking about this on a when I did the podcast episode for this week, that what happens is all of a sudden it's almost as if there's a crack and a little bit of light or the song comes through and everyone that's in that group says whoa, stop talking about this being what you're here to do. I want to talk about this. There was a
Yeah,
you just got lit up, and it's the thing that no one gives themselves permission, but as soon as they go in, man, that crack happens. And then what's catalyzed, like there's a
yeah,
catalytic effect that happens for all that are in the space. My job is to open up the container and to guide and facilitate when those cracks start to happen, but then it's allowing the genius of who's in that space to like pop with each other. Yeah, that is my jam all day.
yeah. Okay, and I'm gonna say yes, yes, and then your soul wants to press further. Of course it does, right? You ready
Of
for me to
course.
do it?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
ready.
So I don't remember what your language is. You told me, and I kind of forget. So, but there's a catalytic conversion that happens. So there is also a even more secret, or this is a subset of this, that you're actually peer to peer and you're one of many.
Mm.
So I know the lab is you're helping, you're the catalyst for helping people get their epiphany. That's amazing. Yes to the yes on that. Absolutely all day long. That's going to be part of your programming. That's going to be a natural thing that you have. People are going to pay you a bunch of money for that. Yes. This is something different. This is more of like a sacred circle of the people that, you know what I mean? Like someone
I
like
do
this,
know what you mean. I call
right?
it my quantum alignment circle.
Yeah, but
Wow. It's
you're
the
not you're not like this is you as a student as well, and
Yeah.
it's a think tank of paradigm shifting and then the catalyst. So you're basically calling catalysts into this, right? And like, what is your lens and what is your lens? Not for anybody to take anything from anybody else, but more to say, how can we then be more like together? And not only saying we have to work together, thinking together, ideating together, creating together. How can that beautiful spaciousness be safe, confidential? It's a splashing around, and I don't know. And
Yeah.
then there are, another five people that are incredibly powerful in there saying, well, maybe it's this. How does that feel? This is a big, because it is. I mean, literally, my book is all about the uncharted territory,
Yep.
right? Like it's all brand new. And so through my signature, I give people tons of advice about dealing with your mind and dealing with stress and dealing with exhaustion and lack and like dealing with like what is your grand vision and what is your soul destiny. And this book is like power packed. It's awesome. And it's about your signature. That's going to give people some sort of, construction for this space, but we're in a whole new world. Everything's new. Everything's new. And when I look at this soul destiny for you, it's like screaming off the chart right now. Like, right? And I also see your second house is also screaming at me too. So timing two ways. So that you bringing people together and allowing yourself to be so incredibly in your ownership and unwavering of your gifts that you
Mm,
can bring other people that is just powerful in and not be affected at all. In a way that would be like, wait a minute, what about this? What about that? No, no.
right.
And that would be the qualifier for other people. Are you so in your own lane that you can open up to some wings of your things, but really still
I
own your
like that.
things?
Wings of your things.
Yeah, that's my next version of the quiz. So yay. Because there were 24 of them. It's so sexy. That's been stirring since 2021 when, yeah, there's a whole story around that. Just got my first flash of that like a month ago. So I,
Nice.
I tell people these things because everybody thinks that the flashes and the downloads and the everything is so dialed in. You have to be in a state of whatever the hell for years
Yep.
sometimes.
For sure. For sure. I remember even starting my business. It happened when I left corporate for a short stint to go do a nonprofit. I woke up at 2 in the morning with this whole yes is you, it's youth empowered strong. And it was 6 years later that I was in a conversation when I was looking to leave corporate that I thought I was going to go down and work at a network office for financial services. And all of a sudden I went, oh my God, yes isn't a thing I'm supposed to build. Yes is who I am. And it's not youth empowered strong, it's you empowered strong. And my friend who was a mentor of mine as well, he goes, and he gave me the book from Andy Andrews, The Traveler's Gift. He goes, oh my friend, oh my God, friend, you have a decided heart. And I just started to weep.
Oh,
And
I
that
love
week,
that. Good.
I built my website. I built like everything just dropped in because it was like, and I found it. Like I found it. I buried it. It was there, and it's in my book. It's all laid out with that original thing I wrote at 2 in the morning. That was
Yeah,
that whole you giving yourself permission to say yes to yourself. It
I
just,
love that.
but it took. It wasn't like no. In fact, I was
Yeah.
like, why are you waking me up at 2 in the morning? I want to sleep. Right? Like,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I know, so amazing, right? I also want to talk about your second house. So Leo, you entered in Cancer, and so we talked about Mars like wreaking havoc, right, for the
Mars
last
has been kicking my ass
handful of
for a while,
months.
for sure.
Yes. The good news is here comes Jupiter, right? So Jupiter from June of 2025 until June of 2026, you're going to mostly be in that first house. It's leadership. How are you showing up? With Cancer, it's cyclically, it's gathering. It's in a very rooted, you create space, safe space for people, right? Beautiful.
Sure.
And then you enter Leo, which it happens to be in your second house, and you have Mercury there and you have Venus there.
Mhm.
So your ability to communicate authentically, your ability to be in that full, gorgeous expression of Venus in Leo, right? Like show up, like have your style, have your flair. Well, Jupiter's going to be there giving you tremendous good luck, and that starts in, that June timeframe of 2026, and probably about February of 2027, it enters your third house. So there's a big influx of money, big influx of speaking, big influx of clients, big influx during that time. When you get to that, what did I say, February 2027, voice comes again.
Mm.
So, hello, podcast book, second iteration of either, hello, TV show. Like, I don't know what's going to come in for you, but it's something big.
Yeah. No, I totally can feel that. And yes, that Leo energy is interesting in both my Mercury and Venus, especially because in my Mercury, it lives in the house, it lives in the energy of leadership itself. And so
Yes.
it's funny because that's again an example when we go back to something we talked about when I was like, I don't want to do this. And I remember multiple times, even in the last 5 years, I'm like, I'm so done doing leadership work. I don't want to be in leadership work. And again,
Good
my
luck
human
with
design
that.
energy laughs at me and goes, girl, do you not know that your leadership is like all over your chart and it sits in your Mercury and it sits in your unconscious moon and it sits in like, okay, and you're going to have some flavor of this come out, whether again it's a language of yours that's not even. And I had a friend, a coach of mine, who she reads holograms, and she told me once, she goes, one of the reasons you struggle with this is you're here to create a new definition of leadership that
Hmm.
lets go of the energy and the word leadership itself. And again, that's part of this paradigm shift, right? It's like, I don't know what it looks like, but I know we're getting called to redefine and reshape leadership because this, whatever we've been calling it, is not
It's
leadership. And I
ex
feel that I've been
exactly.
feeling that since I was 3 years old when I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't add
Mhm.
up. But it's that space of going, I don't want to do this. And everything in my whole soul goes, I'll wait.
You're so cute.
I'll wait because
You're
you
so
can be
cute.
sitting saying that all day long and you're going to wake up. And I do. And in a minute, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm going to find a different way that I coach people and I work with people and I do strategy. And I woke up in the middle of the night with 5 different blog posts that came through me that was like, oh my God, let's look at the projectors. And they're the new vision for leadership.
Oh, I love
And I
that.
wrote this whole article. And I'm like, well, there, I guess. Shit. Right.
Yes, I know. I know. I hear you. I wanted to give up business. I
Yep.
literally, legit, put business down for a few years. I'm like, I don't have to do this with business. I can do this just with magic. It'll be fine. Yeah.
And yeah, no, and then that's part of the challenge, right? It's like, how do you bring something that's becoming more mainstream and everybody's talking about it in this lane? You're not here to just be more of the same and this flavor. And because that's the other thing for me, and I would gather you have felt this on many occasions as well, is coming to terms. And this is some of that coming out of the spiritual closet that everywhere I've been told, and as a Manny Gen with a shit ton of power, and then all this energy that's going on, and this, I am here to disrupt. And even as my Chiron returned, one of the things that really showed up in multiple for me is my Chiron lives in the energy of detachment and closing things out. And it's an energy that lives in my unconscious sun and it lives in my unconscious Venus. Like I've got a lot of that energy. And there's the energy of shock that came through in my Chiron. So the gate 51 and like the gate
Mhm.
2, but this energy of I'm here to disrupt. Like everywhere I felt like I was too much of a vibe, too much of a voice, too much of a thing, that coming to terms, and part of the coming out of the spiritual closet is, can I own the too muchness and realize that the two is my magic? And that for
Mm.
anyone that feels I'm too much, and I've really embraced, I saw the meme that changed everything when it was like, look, if you think I'm too much, go find less. I have realized
I
that
love that.
that voice of leadership, that voice, that energy to gather, even though right now it's a whisper kind of under the wave, I've been saying it's the whisper before the wave. It's the energy of it's still got a projection. It's still going to be strong and it's still going to piss a lot of people off.
Yeah, I'm going to add a little astrological lens to your Chiron here, my love.
Please.
So yes, you just went through your Chiron return. You know,
Yeah,
you're
a
kind
year,
of
two and a
still.
half,
I was
yeah,
going to say
2 years ago.
you're kind of still,
Yeah, I'm
remnant.
still in the throes of
Yeah.
Chiron right now.
So here's the thing, your sun squares it, right? And so that's the first thing I want to say. So almost, within a degree, well, actually, yeah, it's within a degree. So for you, and your sun's in Cancer and your ascendant is in Cancer. So I always ask why, right? Like why did Candy Soul choose this, right? Well, Cancerians.
See the fine print sometimes on my soul contract. Be like, I know I didn't sign up for this shit. But
Oh,
anyway,
you totally signed up for it. No, 100%. You totally signed up for that
I
shit.
know I did.
You totally did. Okay. So it's so interesting to me because you do have this very Cancerian, your soul karma is there, which means you have tons of energy in Cancer. Your moon becomes the ruler of the chart, and there it is in Sagittarius. I'm going to get to that for a minute. Yeah, and then you've got again your sun first house, very obvious. So it's funny. It doesn't surprise me that you've had to grapple with being too much, because but from a Cancer, you would have felt everything too much around you. Cancerians are very susceptible to the energy around them.
Yes.
And so I always ask myself, why would Candy have done that? Like, why was it so important for her soul to do that? And when I'm going to go back to Chiron, because Chiron has the ability, I love Chiron, and Chiron gets a little, every planet gets a bad rap, but Chiron's known as the wounded healer,
Mhm.
right? But Chiron comes with his own healing pack. He's
Yeah.
awesome sauce,
It's
right?
also your medicine and mastery, right?
A
Like,
hundred
sure.
percent. Like he's just amazing. Kind of like, Saturn's your genius, right? It's like, yay. And so we get this malevolence that isn't really there, right? So there's Chiron in Aries, all about identity. Period end. Anytime I see Chiron in Aries, it's identity. You've got Mars there, it's in the 10th house, very obvious in your chart, right? But Chiron sits on your 11th house. It's on the cusp of it. Future. Like for you. So anytime you heal yourself, you heal the world. And anytime you heal the world, you heal yourself
Love
for
it.
the future. So you're the divine spark of the future is literally the translation of this. In that Cancerian, there's a cyclic element, there's a seasonal element, there's a gathering element, a deepening element to Cancer that is all about who are you at the deepest part of you? Who are you at the roots? So there's
Mm.
like a root system here. So think about from a leadership and that echo chamber and that a beautiful think tank arena, what is at the root? Huge. And that gets back to the clan. Because with Pluto in the fourth house, of which I have a different sign because we're different ages, but there is this clan ability, and you have got it. Remember, this is real time. I haven't looked at this except for right now, right? So within minutes of a beautiful excitement with that Mercury retrograde, which means revisiting things, spinning things up that have already been here, taking an original idea and really wrangling with it.
Yep.
What is it really true? Like, and that original idea is 40 years ago, human design. That human design is so effing new. Yes, it's based on astrology and Kabbalah and I Ching and chakra system and everything, but it is relatively new. What's missing, Candy?
Yeah.
Fill in the missing piece.
Love it.
Mic drop.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And definitely feel that. And I think that's the opportunity because it's interesting because I love that you're doing this very real time. It's one of the things. I mean, things just kind of come through and channel. And when you feel that, there is that space of, can I just be okay with the knowledge of how big that is? Because I think for the
Yeah.
long time, even as a child, that was a really challenging thing to know. I remember my mom and I had it. My mom has a joke about this. She's like, do you remember what you, because I think it's the dumbest question we ask kids anyway, but she goes, do you remember what you used to say when people would ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. She goes, no, you had a really different answer than any kid I've ever seen. And she goes, it was weird. And I'm like, no, no, I remember. She goes, no, I mean, like at 3 years old, the people would come up and go, oh, honey, what do you want to be? And I would look at them like they were stupid because I thought it was a
Yeah.
dumb question even at 3. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. And they're like, what do you mean it doesn't matter? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to change the world. And they would look at me like it literally was what came out of my mouth. And I would look at them confused, like, what do you mean? What am I going to be when I grow up? Who cares what I'm going to be? I'm going to change the world. And they would patronize and be very condescending. They're like, oh, sweetie, that's so cute. And it would actually really piss me off. And I'm
Yeah.
like, because they weren't listening. And I would sit there and I would get very set and very like strong in my sense. And I'm like, no, I'm going to change the world. And they're like, oh, sweetie, you're so cute. And then I would put it with the third time, I would put my hands on my hips. I would square my shoulders and I'm like, I'm going to change the world and I'm going to write a book. And I was 3. And my mom's like, it was the weirdest way I've ever seen a kid respond. I'm like, because I've always
Yeah.
known that the work that I'm here to do is catalyzing. It's disruptive. It's big. It's not. And it never mattered what label or what category or what thing. It was just a knowing. And it
Hmm.
was just funny because she's like, I wish somebody would have taken, like, you just were so clear. And people would just keep poking and pushing, and you would just get bigger and stronger in your voice, and you would get really kind of mad at people because they weren't listening.
I
And I
love
think
that.
about how we know that, and we lose
Mhm.
this whole journey is bringing us back to that, right? Every one of us knows that. Maybe not
Yeah.
quite to the intent that I did.
Right.
No.
Yeah, I mean it is so it's so fascinating, right? So the possibilities are endless, right? So there because when you think about it, we're in uncharted territory, right? I use that
Sure.
term a lot now. We're in the new era. We're in all these things, right? No one's ever been here before. It's unprecedented. We've never had these, these 9 months of all these planets moving at the 0 degrees and like I can say it like till the cows come home. And yet we don't really have to go very far to know this to be true. Like I'm going back to the never entry thing with the stress statistics, exhaustion, lack, all the things. What has been happening doesn't work. Now we've got this, the last 15 years have been this like absolute erosion of the middle. We've been going testing to the extremes. And why? Like I always ask why? What is it serving? It is serving for us to choose. And not to choose a side, but to choose ourselves.
Yes.
And that's the key.
Ooh, that just gave me chills. And I am going to already ask that you come back. We got to continue because there's so much moving this year. I want to just first of all, thank you for that gift of you peeking into my design and looking at my energy and sharing all of that with me. And I get to receive that and I get to like play with that and just wonder in that how delicious. Just so much gratitude for you because that was a gift. And for all of you listening, I hope you recognize the gift of what that was and can see the brilliance of what Kim's power and magic and like the way she sees how that can bring you back into a space of just truth and knowing and understanding and making some sense in some capacities of what your role is in light of what feels very chaotic and uncharted and like the ultimate shit show of shit shows. I mean, let's just be serious. It is a shit show on steroids right now.
Yeah.
And the way we navigate through that is individually coming back to our own truth and individually coming back to a place that feels safe. Your know, like, trust you first, right? Know, like, trust
Mm.
yourself. Kim is magical at that. She is masterful at that. And so, for any of you that are feeling the resonance of this, I want you to know how to reach out to her. And so, two things for you, Kim. I know you said the book, but what's opening and what's big for you right now? And how do people connect with you if they're like, ooh, I need some Kim in my life?
I love
Because
that.
y'all need Kim in your life. I'm just gonna say, if you're afraid you need Kim in your life, you really need Kim in your life, but y'all need Kim in your life. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that, dear heart. So kimwoods.com. So I've revamped the website. It now has a start here button. So you can literally just go through the journey of if you want to dip your toe, if you want to kind of splash around, whatever. So I'm really psyched about that. The podcast link is there. My blog link is there. I've got lots of playlists that we're doing now with the podcast. We've got an abundance one. We have your signature for when you finish the quiz. You can just tuck right in there. The quiz is obviously there. So if you're like, I don't care about going to the website, like, oh, la, 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 right? Of course I'm on social media, right? So it's Kim Woods channel at Facebook and Instagram, Kim Woods channel on YouTube, and it's Kim E. Woods on LinkedIn just because the profile is so freaking old, so I didn't have the like, oh, I'm gonna have this be my, my handle.
I'll put all that in the show notes, by the way, so you'll
Yeah.
get links to how to get her in every capacity below. So for sure.
And it's really urging you to take the quiz because here's the thing. I'm not going to sell to you. I don't sell to you in the quiz funnel. I mentioned something about something I'm doing, but I give you literally leadership tips, I give you money tips, I give you
Beautiful.
energy tips. I mean, I think it's 5 to 7 emails. You want to whitelist the email too, because every newsletter at the top of the month, I give a free gift.
Yeah.
I give a gift of a meditation that goes exactly with the energies. So I do that because I can. I do that because this work is so important. And for you to come back to yourself, it takes all a minute.
Yeah.
So I'm going
And
to give
I'm
you a
going
big
to tell
hug.
you, as somebody who's on her list, somebody who listens to her podcast every week, you need to, if nothing else, go spend some time in those spaces because I'm telling you, she brings things to light in a very different way. You just saw this real time. I cannot stress when I say this is a space that I use as a resource in every capacity. I mean it. It is not lip service. You know that I don't just give you lip service. Kim is one of my go-to experts to help me make sense of what's happening and bring myself back. In fact, she's the only astrologer I follow religiously. And so please, please, please go check out what she has going on because she has a wealth of resources, just a wealth of resources available and many ways that you can be working with her.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean that seriously. I still remember I just sent one of my best friends, I'm like, you got to listen to this podcast. It was when we were heading into March. She goes, oh my God, I love her voice. And oh my God, what was this? And I'm like, how are you not already on this? Why did I not already share this with you? She's like, oh my God, I love her. And I said, I know, so do I. That's why I'm sharing you with her. She's like my little secret sauce I want to give to everybody.
I love that. Thank you for that.
And I
Thank you.
do. I adore you. I love you. I so much again gratitude for this. This was gorgeous. This was juicy. This was I've got a lot that's just boop, 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 boop.
Hmm.
And we'll be curious to see what comes through all of
I
that.
know.
Seen
I know.
it.
Can't wait to see. Can't wait to see.
Yeah, because the last time you dropped the, little truth bomb on me, which was, am I ready to come out of the spiritual closet? My response was, I'm as close as I've ever been to a full body yes. That full body yes is like, and everything has shifted. Even for those of you that follow me on LinkedIn, you've seen a change in my presence and my voice and what I'm talking about. And a lot of that was because this beautiful soul right here was the catalyst. She really dropped a truth bomb that then I got to sit and go, fuck.
I know exactly, right? I know. That's when the soul, literally, I mean, we were just on a casual conversation, right? And I was like, oh no, she needs to know this. Okay.
Let's just say this. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah, I know you were. I saw your face. I probably said to you, breathe. Right. That's what I say before I do a truth bomb. Breathe. Just stop,
But
breathe.
it was gorgeous and it was opening. And I would encourage all of you to ask yourselves, who and where do you need to invite in those pathways for your own truth bombs? And it may be you need to reach out to Kim and look at how she can sprinkle some of those in. And I wouldn't say they're really sprinkled, they just get dropped.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous. And so it's another reason why I love Kim Woods is because she has no filter like me and she's going to drop the truth bomb when the truth bomb needs to be. She might have a little bit of a softer land than I do. I tend to, someone says I draw people and then just bam, right the bam, but
Yeah.
it's going to hit. It's going
Yeah.
to drop and it's going to hit. And she might soften it a little bit more with you. She's got a little bit more delicious of that yummy feminine energy that she likes to wrap the blanket around it a little bit, but it's still going to drop.
Yeah.
Just
100%.
gonna let you know. So that being said, any last thing you would like to share with those listening that would be that nugget from what we've talked about?
Yeah. I want everybody to remember that you've chosen to be here at this time, doing these things with these people, with these gifts.
Yeah.
And so remember that you are here in the right time. Everything is perfectly imperfect. And just breathe and say yes.
Yeah, and there's something really delicious about that. It's easy to get caught up in the frenetic noise, but when you
Mhm.
take a step back and you're like, I chose to be here. Like, think about how fucking cool that is. We
Yeah.
chose to lead this forward. We
Hmm.
chose to be the pioneers in a new era. And there's something magically delicious about that. There's
Hmm. It
right?
is.
And
Yeah.
you, my friend, are one of the most
Love
magically
you.
delicious people I know. I love you with my whole soul. I just am so grateful you were in my world. Thank you for the time and the love and the just the gifts you shared with us today. Thank you for being here.
It's my honor.
And for all of you listening, thank you as always for tuning in to another episode of the Aligned as Fuck podcast. Once again, I'm Candy Brune. I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. Please make sure you subscribe, leave your comments, your reviews, and stay with us as we tune in next week for another episode of the Aligned as Fuck podcast. With that, everybody, thank you, and we'll catch you next time.